Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am accompanied by guest book reviewer Sunny the cat. He is attempting to rearrange my bookshelves because that's what he does. So today I wanted to come at you with a video of talking a little bit about a project I've been doing. I've only been really doing it for about a week, but it's been sort of in my mind for a while, and it's this it's not new or original at all. It's this idea of sort of killing your TBR, and so I have put all of my TBR books behind me. They're at the beginning of last week. There were 79. There are now 76. So I thought I would talk to you about the books that I've read, and then a book that I've unhauled, a book that I've hauled, and sort of what I'm looking to finish next. And that way I can kind of motivate myself to keep going. You can motivate me because Lord knows I need it. As an aside, I know that I haven't really mentioned everything that's going on yet. I don't want to talk about it too much. I know that coming to BookTube is just a place where I don't want to hear about it, you know? So all I'll say is that if you're struggling and if you need someone to talk to, I will leave my social media link down below. I'm here if you need some connection. So I've read 3 books off of my physical TBR. I'll go in order. The first book that I read was Veronica Decides to Die by Paulo Coelho. So this is a book that was published in 2000 by Paulo Coelho. In 2017, I think it was, I decided that I wanted to read all of Paulo Coelho, and then there's like this trading app where you trade goods instead of paying for them, and someone had a pile of Coelho to get rid of, and I think I gave her some houseplant clippings that I had. But yeah, so this was in the stack. This is about Veronica, who in the beginning of the book is attempting suicide. So we're in her head for most of it, and she is talking sort of the reader through why as she's slowly losing consciousness. And then we see her wake up in a mental institute where they're trying to convince her that she didn't want to die, and there's a couple of other plot points that develop. So the first is that the doctor there has told her that she has a heart condition due to the attempted suicide, which means that she likely won't make it more than a week anyway. And so now the nurses and this doctor and all of the other people, the patients, they feel sympathetic towards Veronica, even though her mind hasn't been changed. She's actually quite excited that she has a week left, and it brings her this sort of newfound beauty and hope. And even though she's running out of time, she really feels the appeal of making every minute count, and she really does that. So she also tries really hard not to make relationships or have relationships with the other people, but due to proximity and due to their sympathies towards her, she does. It says here that it's a novel of redemption, and I don't necessarily know if that's true. I mean, I guess it is come the end, but we get there through some shady measures. And so, I don't know. I felt pretty great about this one until the end. It's definitely a spoiler to talk about, but it's shady business, and it really just puts an emphasis on, love fixing everything, and not like the love and support of people who just want what's best for you, but like romantic love. And I mean, maybe if I was in high school, I would have absolutely adored this because that was where my head was at. But knowing that someone falling in love with you doesn't negate your problems, it sure makes life a bit more fun. it's a little bit iffy. Maybe not the best place to start with Quello. I did really still love Adultery and Britta and 11 Minutes More. Those are three of the four books that I've read. He's most famously known for The Alchemist, which surprisingly is not my favorite, but I think it's due for a reread. So yeah, I read this one and it came off my TBR. Then I read Less by Andrew Sean Greer, which won the Pulitzer Prize a couple years ago, last year. When was this published? In 2017. So this was sort of all of the rage. I don't necessarily think on booktube, but just in the world of, obviously it's very highly acclaimed. I ended up picking this up at the free library that's near me, which is sadly emptied of all of its books for the time being. But I picked this up at the free library. I seem to have had a lot of good luck finding new fiction there, but a lot of the fiction that I've found I haven't really enjoyed, and I've ended up putting it back. So this book is about Arthur Less, who is a sort of middle-aged author who hasn't really had this like blow up career that everybody dreams of, and he's sort of running away from his problems. So his boyfriend sort of recently broke up with him, and then about 6 months later has invited him to a wedding. So his ex-boyfriend is getting married, and Arthur Less really is not okay with that. He's about to turn 50. He hasn't been able to settle down, and he's not really happy or content with his life. So he kind of makes this grand notion, this promise to himself to sort of do things to sort of distract from the fact that his ex-boyfriend, is getting married. So he kind of says yes. He becomes a bit of a yes man. He says yes to all of these like trips and speaking engagements that are sitting in his inbox that kind of just make a sort of around the world travel. So he goes to a number of places to do some speaking, some author interviews, and all this kind of stuff. And things don't necessarily go to plan all of the time. So we follow Less on this adventure, and it's sort of told in a bit of a haphazard way. So we'll be in the middle of a scene, and then we'll go back 10 years to a memory, and then we will flash forward to the present again. And it's kind of with minimal context clues, I think. I found sometimes that I was just like, hold on, how did we get here? Maybe that's me being a passive reader of the story, but I will say that I did find it quite boring. I think one of my main criticisms for it is that this is it's just Arthur goes on this big adventure with a very predictable twist at the end, and he doesn't do a whole lot of growing, in my opinion. He does a lot of reflecting on the past, but it doesn't necessarily change his current behavior or the way he's feeling, which I guess in some sense is fine. Change doesn't happen overnight like that, but if you're writing a fictional character, you can kind of do those things, and Less at the end versus Less at the beginning, the only thing that really happened was he went to different countries. You know what I mean? Nothing about him really changed. I mean, I guess his idea of this new novel occurred, but that was a very minimal part of the plot. And it's just about him talking about all these people that he knows, and I don't know, it's not really my jam. So I thought that this was okay, but Pulitzer Prize winner worthy? I don't know. I don't read many Pulitzer Prize. Also, Andrew Sean Greer literally wrote in here that Arthur Less had been pronouncing Pulitzer, and that it's wrong. And it just, knowing that this won the Pulitzer now, you know, just was weird. Anyway, this was okay. And then the last book that I've read so far from my TBR. So the last book that I want to talk about is The Enchanted by Renee Denfield. So this was popular in 2014, all the rage on BookTube 2014, 2015. I picked it up last year. A good friend of mine, Valerie, her and I do many a book swap, and this happened to be one of them. And so I finally got to it, and it was sort of the perfect read for me at this moment in time. It's realistic with like a hint of magic, and it was just, escapism as what I need it to be. So this follows a prison, more specifically the inmates on death row in a prison. We are told the story by Arden, who is a very skittish, very sensitive inmate on death row. We learn a little bit about how he got there, as he was originally just an inmate in regular population. He admits to us, the reader, that the prison is magic, and he has the ability to sense the magic and to see the magic, and therefore oversee the prison. So he knows a lot about what's going on, even though he doesn't ever get to talk to anybody. And we also follow this woman who is a lawyer on death row. So she's a lawyer for inmates to grant them life without parole instead of the death penalty. And with her comes a sort of fallen priest, and he has left his parish and is now being a priest that sort of shepherds these inmates to their death. And we get to know a lot about both of those characters through this this case that the woman is trying to change. So she is gathering evidence for an inmate named York, who is he wants to die. So maybe there's like a bit of a theme here. He wants to die. He thinks he deserves to die, but everybody is sort of granted this like appeal case, and so she's trying to go through his history, and she is trying to get him off of death row. So there's like these simple little stories that are woven together, and it creates this beautiful and just magical story. And I love the way it was told. I think if there's anything that I would change, I think that it would just, honestly, I don't know if there's anything I would change. And I don't necessarily think that makes it a 5-star read for me. I think it was just in this moment, as I read it, it was exactly what I needed. So I'm excited about that. If you have this on your shelf, or you haven't picked it up and you thought maybe you would want to when this was popular, I would definitely recommend it. I would probably recommend it higher than the other two books that I read, just because for where we are in the world, it's a pretty great read. So those are the books that I've read. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the book that I unhauled, which was Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. I know a lot of people have read and love this, but for me, I started reading it and I just wasn't really jiving with the way it was written, or sort of, I don't know, historical fiction is not really my thing, so I thought it was best to pass it on. And so with aforementioned Valerie, we did a porch book swap, and she had Number 9 Dream by David Mitchell for me. And so I gave her Lincoln in the Bardo. She has already read that, and I'm just happy that it ended up in the hands of someone who would enjoy it. I don't really know much about this book, except that it follows a man in his 20s in Tokyo. I've read one David Mitchell before. I'm currently in the middle of another one. And I didn't necessarily enjoy the Bone Clocks, but I do think that I was in a bit of a state which impaired my reading of it. So maybe in the future I will visit it again. But so this was the one book that I hauled. And then I thought I would share with you the couple of books that I'm currently reading. So the one that I'm most likely to finish soonest is The Trial by Franz Kafka. Now, this is the story of Josef, who has been arrested, only he doesn't know what for. And so he's been arrested. He's not in prison. He's free to wander the town and get evidence to defend himself. But the trouble is that he doesn't know sort of what's going on or why, and everybody knows about the trial and his charge, but it's just like they speak about it as if it's common knowledge, and Yosef is just like, I'm just trying to defend myself, and it's just quite interesting. This is another book that I ended up getting from Valerie. So I do have just, maybe like 80 pages left of this, so I'm hoping to finish this today. It's quite a quick read. Surprisingly, I thought the language would be a little bit difficult for me, but it's not really. So I'm really excited to finish this up. The other David Mitchell that I'm reading is Cloud Atlas. I posted about this on my Instagram and then just had the urge to pick it up. So I've seen the movie of this ages ago when it came out, and I think that that's definitely helping me with the story. So it's told in chunks. So various people in different time periods. So it starts off with diary entries from somewhere in the 1800s, and then we jump to 1913 where it's letters, and then these lives are all interconnected in a way. And so I am on the fourth life, so there's 6. I'm on the 4th, and then we kind of have this huge chunk in the middle that's the 6th life, and then we kind of go backwards through the remainder of the story to the other lives. And I read Greenwood by Michael Christie, and it's told that way, and I absolutely loved that story. And it took me maybe 2 sections to get into it, but now that I'm on the 4th, I'm really enjoying myself. So I'm really excited. I don't know that I'll finish this by next week, just because I still have like 400 pages, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. And then I'm also working my way through Welcome to the Monkey House by Kurt Vonnegut, which is a collection of his short fiction. I am just adoring this. I forget how much I love Kurt Vonnegut until I read him again. But I've had a bit of an up and down relationship with him. I think he is definitely one of the authors where the book has to present itself at the right time to me. So I read Slaughterhouse-Five, I loved it. I read Cat's Cradle, I loved it. I read God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. I got about halfway through, not the right time for me to read it. I tried to read Breakfast of Champions. Again, not the right time for me, but I am really enjoying this. It's all sort of tip of the sci-fi-ish type genre. There are stories that don't have any sci-fi, and then there are stories that are very much rooted in science fiction, the titular story being one of them. The government has created this universal birth control, which isn't birth control in the sense that it stops people from being able to reproduce. It just numbs people from the waist down so sex isn't pleasurable anymore. And so this has, as you would imagine, increased the amount of rates of depression. And so they've invented these suicide parlors. So if you would like to kill yourself, you can just go to one of these parlors, you can get injected, and then you'll die. And there's this infamous poet who Nobody knows what he looks like, but he's been sort of spewing words of wisdom and letting the people know sort of what's going on. And so the story opens up this old man in the suicide parlor, and this sort of background hunt for this poet, and then the police leave. And huzzah, this old man is the poet, and he takes one of the ladies who runs the suicide parlor into the sewers, and he wants to show her how pleasurable sex can be without being on the birth control. So it's like kind of weird, but really the stories are just so good. They're classic Kurt, and I am loving it. So those are the books that I've read recently, the book that I've hauled, the books that I'm currently reading. I hope to make videos somewhat regularly. Again, I know I kind of fell off, but shit got weird in the world. So let me know if you've read any of these, or if you want to. I would love to hear what you have to say. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're staying healthy. Again, if you need to talk to someone or you want to reach out, my social media is down below. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon with another video. Bye.